The racing year is 1963. Graham Hill in the BRM and Jim Clark in the Lotus are the main contenders.
Pace car pulls out.
Clark also tackled the Indianapolis 500.
Marnelli Jones grabs the lead with Jim Hurtubise right on his tail.
Jim has 2 Grand Prix victories to his credit already this season, the Belgian and the Dutch. And if he carries on like this, he's going to finish up 1963 world champion.
Le Mans continued to be Ferrari's domain, although Ford was taking an interest in sports car racing. The Monte Carlo Rally opened the year, and all the contenders had a sprint around the Grand Prix circuit to finish the rally, some with less success than others. The rally had starting points in Stockholm, Athens and Edinburgh. Snowdrifts meant that the Athens starters couldn't reach the finish. The big man in the little car, Sweden's 18-stone Erik Karlsson and the 841cc 3-cylinder Saab, won the Monte Carlo Rally. The team prize went to Citroën, who had 5 cars among the top 10, a fine achievement after losing some of their best drivers who could not get through from Athens. All the first 7 cars in the rally had front-wheel drive, and the first 3 cars started from Stockholm. Sweden scored a double success when Uwe Rosqvist in her works-entered Mercedes 220 SE won the coveted Coupe des Dames. 33-year-old Erik Karlsson became the first driver for 30 years to win the rally 2 years in succession. 22 points behind Karlsson in second was Pauli Toivonen of Finland in a Citroën. A works-entered Mini Cooper driven by Rauno Aaltonen of Finland and Tommy Ambrose from England was third. First to congratulate Karlsson was Pat Moss, soon to be his wife. Pat's brother Sterling was in the news when he announced he was retiring from racing after having a private test in a Lotus sports car at Goodwood. A year earlier, he nearly lost his life in a racing crash on the same track. He said he didn't think his reactions had slowed down, but said his concentration was not so good. This is a great disappointment. I'd have liked to have made a comeback. Years later, he realized that he tried to return too soon. The 47th Targa Florio was a fierce battle between Porsche and Ferrari. The Tommy Hitchcock Zarab Cioccatua Ferrari 250 GTO was 8th, while the factory 246 of Ludovico Scarfiotti didn't finish. There were even 2 minis competing. Bernard Caillet and Rob Slotemacher were 25th. Alfa Romeo Giulietta SZs of Castagnini and Ferleno, followed by Giunti and Datti. 18th was the Donato Mascaleros Lancia Flaminia Zagato. The Targa Florio was won by Joe Bonnier and Carlo Maria Abate in the Porsche 718 GTR. Only 11 seconds behind came Willy Marese in the Ferrari, slowed by loose bodywork. Porsches took 3rd and 5th places, Ferraris 4th and 6th. The 15th BRDC International Trophy saw many of the Grand Prix contenders on the grid. John Surtees had joined Ferrari. Current world champion Graham Hill was back for BRM. Dan Gurney joined Jack Brabham at Brabham. Bruce McLaren and Tony Maggs again drove for Cooper. Graham Hill's teammate at BRM, Richie Ginther. And Jim Clark was partnered by Trevor Taylor in the Lotus 25s. The race was run over 52 laps. Clark led away, followed by Surtees. The former motorbike champion held second for half the race before dropping out with an oil leak. That left Jim Clark untroubled in the lead. British cars filled the first 4 places. Jim Clark the winner. Bruce McLaren of New Zealand was second, with Trevor Taylor third, and Innes Ireland fourth.
Giri, trofeo Esso a Vallelunga per il Gran Premio Roma. Partono in mucchio italiani e stranieri per una corsa tirata sino allo spasimo, a quasi 130 di media.
The 15th Rome Grand Prix was held at Vallelunga.
Gli italiani ad uno rimangono per strada.
The non-championship Formula One race was run over 2 heats of 40 laps. Both heats finished with the same 3 cars coming home in the first 3 places, and each time they were the only 3 cars to complete the distance. The winner was Britain's Bob Anderson in a Lola Mark IV. The only one to threaten the leaders was Franco Bernabei in his De Tomaso, but his engine blew up while he was leading the first heat and he was unable to take part in the second.
Vince Bob Anderson su una Lola Climax V8, una vettura che pesa 451 kg e ha una potenza di 185 cavalli.
The World Championship began with the Monaco Grand Prix and a full field of cars lined up for the prestigious race. Jim Clark had pole position with Graham Hill alongside. John Surtees was on the second row with Richie Ginther.
All set for the Monaco Grand Prix, and Prince Rainier is there to give it a real royal start. There are 15 cars in the race, the first of the 10 Grand Prix, counting in the World Championship for the year. They have to do 100 laps, total distance 195 miles. Number 9, Jim Clark in a Lotus, on his tail, world champion Hill, BRM. Ireland in a bit of trouble. At halfway, Jim Clark leading. And here comes a V6 Ferrari driven by John Surtees. Jim Clark's out of it with jammed gears, so the lead's taken by Hill. A victory for Graham Hill in the BRM. Prince Rainier presents the trophy.
Hill also received £700 prize money. Richie Ginther was second, Bruce McLaren third and John Surtees fourth. A new era for the Indianapolis 500 began. The second round was the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps. Graham Hill was on pole with Dan Gurney's Brabham second quickest and Willie Maureci third in the fastest Ferrari. Jim Clark had gearbox trouble and was on row 3. The weather changed on race day and conditions were damp, with Clark making an extraordinary start to lead the field. He was followed by Graham Hill and Gurney. Tony Maggs spun off on lap 27. Maureci dropped back with engine trouble and Brabham ran into electrical trouble, so Gurney was able to make up the lost places again. Surtees suffered a problem, leaving Gurney third with Ginther fourth, McLaren fifth and Maggs sixth. A storm then broke over the track, and as this was happening, Hill's BRM stopped with gearbox failure. In the worst of the rain, Gurney fell back with water swirling around in his cockpit and was passed by Bruce McLaren's Cooper 2 laps from the finish. On a circuit he disliked intensely, Jim Clark scored his second win, levelling the championship with Graham Hill at 1 win each. Bruce McLaren was second, Dan Gurney third. Fourth place was taken by Richie Ginther, 1 lap behind in the BRM. Fifth was Swedish Cooper driver Joe Bonnier, and sixth, Dutch privateer Karel Gordon de Beaufort, both 2 laps behind.
Alfa Romeo's destined for disappointment. And now the gas turbine car just 24 hours away from fame. The tension's building. The jet car's second driver, Richie Ginther, attempts the impossible to relax before the race of races, while Graham Hill, his partner, simply polishes the tense moments away.
Now there's a hush which masks the whole character of a Le Mans weekend, as the mechanics and officials check and seal. Excitement's at its peak. In 2 seconds now, the race will be on from its running start.
BRM and Rover cooperated to produce a gas turbine car, which was entered in a special class. Ferrari was favoured to win with an impressive 11-car lineup. Aston Martin had DB4 GTs and the Project 215 car, and there was a lone Maserati Tipo 151.
A famous pace, no longer racing.
AC Cobra made its debut in a team managed by Sterling Moss. Bruce McLaren walks away from his burning Aston Martin with an E-Type also looking second-hand. For outright honours, there was a fierce fight between the Parks Maglioli, the Surtees Mairesi and the Scafiotti Bandini Ferraris. Mairesi's car caught fire and burnt out in the S's. Graham Hill hops out of the Rover and Ginther prepares to get in. Turbines as an automotive power source didn't make it into production, but the technology was there to be developed. The Wagstaff Ferguson Elite won the 1300cc class. On Sunday morning, Ludovic Scafiotti and Lorenzo Bandini took the lead in their Ferrari and went on to win the 1963 race.
Dawn through the S-bends. Dawn when the surviving drivers still have to keep their lap average up or better it. And one driver who's hit the sandbags is digging himself out to go on to finish 12th. Five minutes to go now, and by weight of numbers, the Ferraris are in the lead as they have been for years.
The Whispering Turbine toured around in what would have been 10th position had it been entered in the race proper. The Dutch Grand Prix saw the win go to Jim Clark. He was a lap ahead of Dan Gurney and John Surtees.
At Reims, in the heart of the Champagne country, the world's greatest drivers set off on the 273 miles of the French Grand Prix. And in the lead from the drop of the flag is Scotland's Jim Clark, Lotus number 18. Jim has 2 Grand Prix victories to his credit already this season, the Belgian and the Dutch. And if he carries on like this, he's going to finish up 1963 world champion. He's in trouble early with a misfiring engine, but he still hangs on to his lead. There's Maurice Trintignant working his way up the field. It isn't easy to break from the pack on this high-speed circuit because the faster they're going, the more slipstreaming counts. That's why it's more important than ever to get ahead from the start and stay there. Jim Clark does stay there, clocking a lap record on the way. Tony Maggs in second place and Graham Hill in third are still behind when Jim crosses the line. So now Jim's clear favourite for the world title.
Clark won his 3rd Grand Prix in succession by nearly a minute from Maggs, with Hill third, having lost time at the start. The British Grand Prix returned to Silverstone after 2 years at Aintree. Jim Clark qualified 2/10 faster than Dan Gurney's Brabham, and the front row was completed by Graham Hill and Jack Brabham. Rather than seeing Clark take the lead as usual, the crowd saw Brabham and Gurney go ahead, with McLaren and Hill also ahead of Clark. It didn't last long, and on lap 4, Clark was back in the lead again. McLaren and Brabham went out with engine trouble. This promoted Hill to 3rd. On lap 59, Gurney also went out with engine failure, and Clark had a minute lead over Hill and Surtees. On the last lap, Hill ran out of fuel, which allowed Surtees past. Richie Ginther was 4th and Lorenzo Bandini 5th. Jim Clark now led Graham Hill by 17 points. At the Nürburgring, Clark was again dominant in qualifying, although he was run close by the Ferrari of John Surtees. Completing the front row was the Scuderia Centro Sud BRM of Lorenzo Bandini, which was faster than Graham Hill's factory car. Clark went into the lead while Brabham was left behind. Clark had engine trouble, so Ginther took the lead, with Surtees moving to second by the end of the lap. On lap 2, Willy Mairesi had a serious crash at Flugplatz that ended his Formula One career, while Bandini undid his good work. Ginther's BRM suffered gearbox trouble and he dropped behind Surtees, Clark, Hill and McLaren. Graham Hill went out with another gearbox failure. Although Clark continued to fight with Surtees, the Lotus driver was suffering from a misfire and gradually began to drop back. Surtees duly won the race, scoring Ferrari's first victory for nearly 2 years. All this left Ginther third. Mags was fourth until his Cooper had engine trouble and dropped back. That allowed Siffert into fourth until he suffered differential failure, so fourth was inherited by the old Porsche of Gerhard Mitter. Roger Penske brought his Cooper Zerek Special over from America for the Guards Trophy.
The American Cooper ahead of Tony Maggs, and Roy Salvadori lies third there on the inside after making a rather shaky start. These 2.7-litre Climax engines are the development of the old 2.5-litre Formula One racing engines. It's Tony Maggs second, Roy Salvadori third, and Tom Mayer fourth as they come down round the bottom bend. And then Graham Hill on the GTO Ferrari, who is just ahead of number 23, which is Innes Ireland on the DB4 Aston Martin. Meantime, the American still holds on Tony Maggs and Roy Salvadori as they go through the South Bank with his American-built Cooper Monaco, which is in third place, 21 seconds behind.
26-year-old Pennsylvanian Roger Penske led all the way to win by 40 seconds from Roy Salvadori, with another American, Tim Mayer, third. Jim Clark continued his domination of Grand Prix racing when he won the Italian from Richie Ginther. Clark secured the 1963 World Championship, taking third place behind Hill and Ginther in the US Grand Prix. Clark won his 6th race of the year in the altitude of Mexico City. Jack Brabham was a distant second. Two months after the Mexican Grand Prix, the final round of the World Championship took place in South Africa. Jack Brabham took the advantage off the line, but Clark and Surtees quickly pushed him back to third position. Trevor Taylor spun off, rejoining down the order. Brabham's challenge faded when he lost power and was overtaken by Surtees and Hill. Surtees retired with an engine problem which elevated Graham Hill to third at the finish. Ginther would have been fourth, but he suffered a transmission problem while Brabham spun in the closing laps and had to retire. This meant that Bruce McLaren ended up fourth in his Cooper Climax, with Bandini fifth and Bonnier sixth, although he was 2 laps behind. By the end of the race, Jim Clark had lapped the whole field, apart from second-placed Dan Gurney. Jim Clark's wins were characterized by sheer speed, setting the pace and outdriving his rivals. 27-year-old Clark won a record 7 races on his way to the World Championship, and Lotus won the Constructors' title. Could BRM, Ferrari, Brabham or Cooper respond in 1964?